And we've come through the Woodland walk and we're nearly completing it. And this is the Ballynahinch River that meanders along the outside of the Montalto Estate, and that I presume is Ballynahinch up there, or the outskirts. The trees are really covered with moss here. And we're looking out for kingfishers and dippers and herons, but they must all be on holiday or something. Now, it was near this spot that the Battle of Ballynahinch was fought in the 1798 rebellion. So we've just come up the Woodland trail, and I thought it was challenging enough, but apparently we're heading for the history trail. And it says it's 1.1 kilometre of a relatively challenging walk with the opportunity to find out more about some of the most historic sites on the estate. We'll visit Edenavaddy Hill, one of the key sites of the Battle of Ballynahinch, 1798 of course. Virtually unchanged from back then. You'll see the field where the rebels gathered the night before the battle to discover why the site was so integral to the rebels' belief, or to the rebels' defeat. You might come across a few rebels and soldiers amongst the trees. Ho ho ho. Past the site of a well-preserved rath from the early medieval times, and adjacent to it is an enclosure. This was most likely used to house livestock. And here's the Thomas Robinson picture that I videoed before. And a big missile thrush has just landed. Ah, it's bouncing along there. Looking for worms. And we've arrived at the battle site. You think back to how many men lost their lives in the fields in front of us. And the Irish Rebellion forces were, they were poorly equipped. The Crown forces had muskets, and most of the Irish Rebellion boys hadn't. They just got, farm implements and pikes. So they were shot from a distance. And then the Irish Rebellion forces they wouldn't have horses by and large. Oh dear. And the Crown forces also had cannon. So the United Irishmen forces were up at the top of the hill here, and they were just annihilated, leaving wives and children bereft with no means of support. And that meant starvation. And the Rath must be up here somewhere that they were talking about at the bottom of the hill. Henry Munro, leader of the Down forces, opens the fighting with a discharge of cannon. United Irish pikemen in the open, vulnerable to guns, but formidable in close fight. But it was getting close to the enemy forces. And there's the Battle of Ballyhinch, recorded here in this field in Edenavaddy Hill. United Irishmen gathered the night before the battle, 1798. And there's all details about the United Irishmen. It talks about the Battle of Saintfield first. And the majority of these rebel leaders were Presbyterian ministers. So it was Henry Munro of Lisburn versus the better equipped and better trained forces of General Nugent's government forces. And there was Colonel Stewart and the Argyll Fencibles. You wouldn't want to come across those boys, they would just cut you to bits, not even asking who you were. Ballyhinch was left in ruins, with almost half the houses burned and destroyed in the fighting. Montalto House sustained significant damage, having been occupied by the rebels and subsequently set on fire by the Monaghan militia during the battle. And during the days and weeks that followed, government forces spread out across the countryside, crushing those suspected of being participants and supporters of the rebellion. One of the bloodiest episodes in Irish history. Among the local people sentenced to death for their part in the rebellion was John Skelly of Creevena near Ballynahinch and Thomas Coulter of Lakeal. What a massacre. Some women took part in the battle, the most notable of whom is Betsy Gray. She was killed by a Hillsborough yeoman on her way home from the battle. So there's all the details, and this is where the savagery happened. And this is the Edenavaddy Hill. Between 1914 and 18, around Ballynahinch, 300 men from the town and surrounding area went to fight in the First World War. A notable number were killed in the conflict. Second World War came closer to home, with US soldiers stationed in the grounds of Montalto and other locations nearby. And here's what we've got. There's Ballynahinch. American troops en route to Ballynahinch. Market Day. And there's local landmarks, with Paris marked out as being 520 miles away. And there's nobody here but the sheep.